All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone for joining us. We will go ahead and open it up to some questions here for Curt after the team's WNBA free agency news, specifically the signings of Jonquel Jones and Courtney Williams. Please just go ahead and raise your hands and I'll call on you. And we'll go through in order. And if you guys, again, for who have joined us and need some recording capabilities, please just let me know and I'll go ahead and grant you some access there. We'll go ahead and get started. We'll start off with Michael Burns.
Hey everybody, Michael Burns here with Hoop Social. Hey Curt, had a question for you about Courtney. I saw in the presser today you mentioned specifically her rebounding, and I wanted to ask you about that. It's something that's hard to not notice. She definitely is one of the best, if not the best, rebounding guards in the league. What specifically about her allows her to be such a great rebounder, in your opinion?
Yeah, Michael, thanks for the question and joining. And again, to all, I apologize in advance. I have my dogs with me, so I can't promise that they're going to cooperate throughout the press conference, but bear with me. But yeah, specifically, Courtney is clearly through the years has quietly, probably not as recognized as she should be, is the premier defensive rebounding guard in the league. It makes her special for us who have really hung our hat on recent years on the defensive end and limiting teams' offensive rebounding, which contributed to our defensive success. And then our offensive transition, adding Courtney back into the fold in terms of specifically that defensive rebounding, is really an important facet of her rejoining us and is a big part of her game. She pursues the ball. She's a willing rebounder, obviously a terrific athlete, but she just really got a nose for the ball. It's a want to. Rebounding's a hustle stat. Courtney plays with a bunch of energy and with energy and effort, and allows her to be a really good and talented defensive rebounding guard in our league.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And just one more, if you don't mind. What point did it become apparent that Briann January wouldn't be coming back with the Sun? And what are your plans for replacing her point of attack defense?
Yeah, certainly. We would be remiss not to talk about Briann January during this media availability. She's been an integral part of what we have done the last 2 years, a true professional, someone that I really enjoyed coaching, and I'm a better coach and person. Having the opportunity to be around Briann January, we are certainly going to miss that professionalism in her defense. She is a lockdown defender and a huge part of why we were, so analytically a dominant defensive team through the regular season last year. Obviously, Courtney's a different type of defender, and as Bri January moves along, and we thank her for all that she did for the Sun, obviously we're tremendously excited about the dynamic ability of Courtney on both ends of the floor to help us. But Courtney's going to have to pick that up, and obviously is a different type of defender than Briann January, but has the ability in her own way to be disruptive, getting in the passing lanes, again, that defensive rebounding potential. She really is a unique defender in her own right. And so we're excited about the addition and bringing back Courtney.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
We'll go over to Alexa next.
Hi, Curt. Good to see you. I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about, I have a few questions about Courtney. One, as someone who was beloved by the fan base, but also by her teammates, that was even evident, I thought, at the All-Star game this past year, I guess with her former teammates at the time. From what your conversations have been like, how have they responded to knowing that she'll be rejoining the fold? And how much also did it play a role in pursuing her, that she had that familiarity with your system, with the coaching staff, and a lot of the players on the team currently right now, and in deciding that she might be a good fit for the team?
Yeah, as you can imagine, this is a player-led league and a franchise that really values our players, and our veterans truly advocate for Courtney Williams. They wanted her back. They recruited her back. They had a special bond and uniqueness. Their sisterhood, that culture that we had while she was here was really, really special. And so when JJ, the best player in the world, are coming off her MVP season, is advocating that's who we need, and is talking to, Courtney, and you could see that, happening at the All-Star game, as you mentioned, and your perceptions right on there. There's talk that those two wanted to play together again in their WNBA career. Fortunately, it's worked out quickly, and we were able to bring Courtney back. But it's certainly, this is player driven. The players really, really advocated for Courtney rejoining the team. Your second part, if I didn't answer it, Alexa?
Oh, the second part was about the added bonus of having someone who's familiar with the system and the coaching staff and the players, just from a basketball standpoint.
Yeah, I think there's a marriage both ways, right? There's a trust from Courtney to us that we will put her in position to be successful. There's a trust coming off, the last year and the situation in Atlanta. I think being back around what she would say are her sisters, and the love that she feels, not only from the veteran players, but our fan base and our franchise. There's a comfort level coming off the year she, had, to be back with this family. Vice versa, I know I loved coaching Courtney. She's easy to coach. She loves the game. She's passionate about the game. You want to talk about a player that shows up in practice and wants to play. Now, she may not want to do the breakdown drill that I want to put her in first, but when you get to 3-on-3 or 5-on-5, Courtney can play every single day. She just loves this game. That's contagious. And you see it, our fan base, the media, everybody sees it on game day, that she's so contagious and brings teammates with her. But it's on a daily basis too. Like that, Courtney loves to compete. And so when we do have those moments, which are few and far between in the WNBA, and you can really practice, Courtney's fun to scrimmage with. Courtney's fun to be in practice with. So there's a real trust in what she brings to the table from my vantage point. So I just think it's a real comfort for both of us in this situation.
One more quick one for me. Given kind of how things ended in her first time in Connecticut and some of the off-court stuff that happened in Atlanta, I'm not sure if you're willing to share anything or speak to maybe some conversations that were had and that entailed like what, her coming back to Connecticut, what kind of, you wanted to see from her, or, putting some of the stuff in the past to the past, anything kind of along those lines that you're willing to speak to.
Yeah, I'm going to keep our conversations between, Courtney and myself, but certainly, we vetted and we talked to Courtney, and expectations from our franchise, expectations on what it means to be a Connecticut Sun and come back into our culture and come back with us. Those expectations have been talked to amongst each other. Again, that those details of those conversations I'll keep between us two, but certainly we've had some great conversations in this free agency period.
Thanks, Curt.
We'll go over to Howard, followed by Ned.
Thanks, Ned, and Curt, thanks for taking the time to chat with us. Just got a couple for you. The first about Courtney, we're having a lot of conversation about sort of bringing somebody back into the fold who everyone's familiar with. But in some ways, her game, especially the shape of where she shot the ball from, changed fairly significantly over the last couple of years. Now, I know you've talked about, giving her more freedom in the past to take those mid-range shots, but she took a greater percentage of her shots from three last year than she ever has before, which I know kind of is in keeping with the way in which you try to focus the offense around at the rim and beyond the arc. I'm just wondering whether you see her change and the way in which this team is built now leading to some different utilization of her at the offensive end.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head, Howard, that she, like many pros that become all-stars, game continues to evolve. and continues to improve. And her 3-point shooting consistency, her 3-point shooting volume has raised as her career has gone on. Still the premier mid-range pull-up jump shooter in the world, right? She always is going to have that mid-range game that is truly makes her Courtney Williams. But she is a very underrated 3-point shooter and is a very capable 3-point shooter. She showed that in Atlanta. She showed that as she, blossomed into a first-time All-Star. So we're excited about the expanding nature of her game, and we're going to keep challenging her. Not only does JJ look to get better and add something to the tool bag every year, Courtney is the same way, and we're going to continue to do what we do best. I have some of the best assistants in player development. We're going to continue to challenge them to keep adding tools in their tool bag and get better and better, and we're going to need it. There's super teams forming as we speak, as we know, and so everyone's going to have to step up their game if we're going to chase the dreams that we all have.
I appreciate it. And then just from a technical perspective of free agency and how it is coming to pass during this year with Athletes Unlimited, I'm curious how much that's changed. Obviously your travel schedule, how often you are overseas compared to here, and whether it is in practice. I know we talked about it in the abstract, but in practice, making a significant difference and perhaps a difference for the better in terms of being able to navigate free agency as a general manager.
Howard, I think I understood the question, but you froze on me for a little bit of the question. So instead of answering what you're not wanting, can you repeat a little bit of that?
Sure. And hopefully I can do it more efficiently here. How has Athletes Unlimited changed in practice the way in which being a general manager, it happens over these few weeks, here around free agency?
Yeah, I'm excited about the league and the potential that it brings, not only for women's basketball as a fan of women's basketball, but also our league. Well documented, just spent 4 or 5 days out in Vegas and was able to meet with, our current players, but also an opportunity to meet with potential free agents to add to our roster, and knowing that those players are going to be on time. If they don't sign a late contract here in March, those players have the ability to be on time, which is so valuable as we head into training camp, because so many people return late still from their overseas commitments. So I'm excited about that league, and I'm excited about what it could do for us in the WNBA also.
Is it basically, this is the Women's G League now, right? That's essentially how it's landed at the moment.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's what they want to be referred to as, but I'm excited that there's another professional opportunity for players that don't choose to go overseas. It's fun to watch women's basketball at the professional level year round right now.
Concur. Thank you very much.
Ned?
Howdy, Curt. With the 2 signings now, how is this going to affect your roster construction as far as how many players you can keep?
Yeah, nothing changes. Obviously, we're allowed 15 at any point in time at training camp, and we ultimately, at the end of training camp coming out, will have to be at our roster. We have, for a couple years now, really built a salary cap at the top end of our roster. Therefore, it is conceivable and probable that we will play with 11 players. It's not set in stone, but that's the way a lot of the league is trending, and we're no different. But we will continue to put together as strong as training camp as possible to fight for roster spots. That's what I've always done. It's my commitment to continue to challenge our players returning to get better, and to never, be complacent and think that their jobs are safe. They got to fight for those jobs. And, so we'll put together a great training camp again, and look forward to the competition as our roster rounds out.
Thanks.
Christina?
Hey, Coach. Nice to speak with you this afternoon. It's Christina Williams with Athletes Unlimited and Girls Talk Sports TV. You mentioned to Howard earlier that you were able to attend last week the inaugural, tip off for Athletes Unlimited, and see a few players like Taj Cole. Can you just speak to us about her game and what stands out to you the most about her?
Yeah, Christina, the league was great. It's an exciting time. I thought that it was a really neat to be there and support our players, but support the league as it started from a member of the WNBA. So a really exciting opening week out there in Vegas with you and others. There's a lot of talent out there, a lot of talent that's already in the league, a lot of talent that's trying to fight back in the league, and some that are trying to get into the league for the first time. And, obviously, we will announce later today more signings. But as for specific players, Christina, I'm going to hold off, but because I think we all know there's an announcements coming later in the day.
Thanks, Coach. Thanks.
We'll go over to Miles, followed by Corbett.
Hey, Coach, great to talk to you again. Even with 2021's regular season success, you talked throughout the year last year about the team's struggles with turnovers and addressed the slower pace because of the smaller roster. Does the addition of Courtney Williams, who, like you've said, is deadly with those transition pull-ups, make you feel like you've addressed those weaknesses, or there's still more to come there in terms of your focuses?
Yeah, I think, one of the successes that we've had is our ability to adapt, our ability to pivot through the years. We've found ways to be successful through the years through adversity. We've lost Chene Agumake for an entire season. JJ opted out of the 2020 bubble season. We lose Alyssa Thomas for 30 of the 32 games last year in the regular season. So we've had to always pivot and play a style that we believe put the roster that we had in the best position to be successful. Last year, without Alyssa Thomas, we believed what put us in position to be the most successful is to slow the pace down and to really rely on a defensive-oriented, great rebounding team, playing intentionally through JJ, playing intentionally through Bree Jones. And we had the best regular season record in franchise history. We had a remarkable year in the regular season, winning 14 of our last games. But there's such a fine line in the playoffs, as we know. A double overtime loss in game one, all of a sudden flipped home court advantage, and a missed opportunity in game three with under 10 seconds to go. And maybe what a lot of people would perceive as an uncontested layup to win game three didn't go our direction. And all of a sudden we found ourselves in the short end of the semifinals. If healthy for an entire season, having Alyssa Thomas, who has been affectionately referred to as the engine through the years, who creates a lot of pace for us, and Courtney returning, it is conceivable that you would believe we are trying to turn back up the pace and play at a higher tempo like we had done in previous years. So, with Alyssa back, with the signing of Courtney, I think you'll see, with future signees that, trying to turn back up the pace, Miles, is going to be a point of emphasis while we're still going to feature JJ. I mean, I'm 4 or 5 questions in and we haven't talked about the MVP and the best player in the world yet. We're still going to feature JJ, still going to play through JJ, but can we do that and play at a little bit of higher tempo?
Thanks so much, Curt. Good to talk to you again.
Corbett, and followed by Jackie Powell.
Hi, Curt. Corbett Harrells, lead sports media. We've gotten asked a lot about the Athletes Unlimited here. What do you see with a very successful start to captaincy out of Dejanay Carrington during her time there, and what can it bring to your team going forward?
I had a really fun a few days with Captain Kerrigan. She did a tremendous job in those first 3 games out of the gate. It is not easy to be a player coach and mainly making most of those decisions. And what people don't realize is she's making decisions on what the warm-up looked like. She was making decisions on substitution. She's making decisions. We had brunch before game 2 on Friday, and we were joking, and she's like, what should my first play be? And I was like, oh no, Captain Kerrigan, what do you think? Like, who do you want to play for? And she's like, well, Izzy Harrison gives us a great advantage. And I said, okay, well, think of Izzy like JJ. What are some of the actions? What do we do special for JJ? What do we do special for Bree Jones? Do you like those things? Can you do those same things with Izzy? So we had great X's and O's talks. Dejanay is very, very underrated X's and O's wise. Again, very smart. And it was fun to talk about all the things that she was going through and the pressures that you feel. I think in the long run, that will help me, right? That they understand that there's a lot of decisions that coaches go through. And that there's a lot in your head, not only 11 players, you're worrying about after your timeouts, what your play looks like. She joked with me. She's like, how are my ATOs? How are my after timeout plays? And I just think, it's fun to talk X's and O's with players. It was fun to talk it with Dejanay. She did a great job. I know not everybody is happy. I kind of chuckled that people weren't happy with their playing time decisions of the bench in game 1. And I just chuckled because I said, you care about everyone on that team. You win and lose as a team, but it's hard to make everybody happy. Well, Dejanay, as a rookie, was in that situation coming off the bench and desiring more playing times at time. And I had to make those calls. So I think in the long run, it's going to help some of our WNBA coaches talk with players, because when they become captains in that league, they're going to go through a lot of feelings and emotions that coaches go through on a daily basis.
Do you feel like the league in that format will help create more on-court leadership among some of the younger players?
For sure. And Corbett, there is already incredible on-court leadership by these players in the WNBA. I mean, it is an elite league, so hard to make. These players are incredibly talented, X's and O's wise. But can it help? Yeah, absolutely, it continued to help. But I want you to know that it is really, truly special to work with these players and how smart they are as basketball players and how much they think the game. It's really special to be involved with a league like this.
Thank you for that. Have a great one.
Jackie, followed by Jacqueline.
Hey, Curt, good to see you. So let's talk about JJ, because you said,
let's do it.
Yes, let's do it. So take us through the vision that you laid out for JJ and what you think sold her on, a multi-year deal and coming back.
Yeah. First, I think you have to understand that JJ is one of the most selfless people I've ever been around. She's truly a humble superstar. She is got to be in the discussion, with just a few names as the best player in the world right now. I mean, just a few names, and her name has to be mentioned among those. And you would never know it. She wants to win a championship. There's something truly special when you talk to her, and that's what she wants to do more than anything. And she's so unselfish, not needing the credit. Her big desire right now is trying to bring Connecticut its first championship. And so that is a starting point when you talk with her, and how badly she wants to win, how appreciative she is on how she's been treated in Connecticut. And, so those are the conversations. And then what any great player in any sports league, in any franchise wants is she wants to have more open dialogue on what the roster looks like. And so when you have those conversations with JJ, when she says, we need Courtney Williams, you listen to JJ and understand that she, amongst others, truly advocated to going and getting back one great player in the league and could be what we believe is a missing piece for us.
Right. I appreciate that. So along those lines, how would you describe your team's championship window and what it looks like? Because sort of what we're seeing right now is you've got a bunch of players on a bunch of teams that have announced the retirement. So you have Sylvia Fowles in Minnesota. You have, we think, potentially Sue in Seattle. There's Breon January, who announced that will be her last season in Seattle. And then you have Diana in Phoenix. I guess the point that I'm trying to make is that there are a lot of teams that are saying 2022, that is our window. So what does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, as I mentioned over the last few years, when we traded for DeWanna Bonner, we believed we were in a window right now to win. And you're not always in that window in professional sports. And I believe as free agency plays out and, over the next few days and weeks, you're going to see a handful of super teams on paper that, believe that they're in their window and we pushed our chips in. So we have a neat kind of combination of players in their prime, like JJ and Courtney, where you have players at the back end, the back end of their career, like DeWanna, that, are really, really hungry to win one more championship. Jasmine Thomas on the back nine of their careers that, again, loyalty to stay with Connecticut for as long as she has and want to win the championship. Alyssa Thomas wants to win a championship. So we're clearly in a window to compete. And that's what this window has been about. I don't think this group gets enough credit over the last 5 years. It's 5 years now. Since 2017, the Connecticut Sun have won the most regular season games. Again, since 2017, the Connecticut Sun have won the most regular season games in the league. But we're in pro sports and it's about a championship. And we've yet to win a championship. And so we're going to keep scratching and clawing until we try to bring the first championship to Connecticut. My resolute is you learn all the time from disappointments, failures, however you want to look at it. And I look at great coaches. Mike Tebow won his first championship in his 17th season. Dan Hughes won his first championship in his 17th season. Klopp won a recent championship after, just been a loyal soldier in our league for a long, long, long time. So I'm just going to keep grinding. I'm going to keep grinding. And I believe in this organization from ownership down. And we're going to keep scratching and clawing. I think we're in a window that can do that.
Thank you for that. I really appreciate that. And the final one from me, you sort of touched on it a little bit, but when you reflected on the 2021 season and looked at maybe some of the things that might have not gone your way in the playoffs and in the semis series against the Sky, what was something that you knew that you needed to achieve in free agency? And I guess how you think the signings you've made and that you will continue to make will get you, to correct some of those mistakes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, in reflection after the rawness wears off is that an appreciation of exactly what we were able to accomplish. The best record in franchise history, one of the best defensive team performances since the early 2000s, individual awards, an unselfish locker room that, just really enjoyed playing with each other. And then the reflection on the playoffs is just the fine line between winning and losing. Mm-hmm. If you win a double overtime game in game one, is the semifinal series different. If you make that layup with under 10 seconds to go in game three, is the series flipped? And how close, you can be. And so my takeaway was I have to be better. I didn't adjust to one offensive scheme that Chicago had that haunts me, that I wish I had better adjustments. We tried different things and never pushed the right button. There's things that you look at that you want to be better, but when you're to bring in your question on what can we add to free agency is, Courtney brings us one more closer, one more player that can go get her own shot. Now, late in the game, do you have JJ and Courtney in an action? And if they try to take away Courtney, JJ gets the big shot. If they try to take away JJ, does Courtney get the big shot? And you still have other all-stars on the floor, but adding a closer like Courtney in close games was something that we were looking for in this offseason.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And congratulations.
Thank you.
We'll go to Jacqueline, followed by Wensley.
Hey, Curt, nice to talk to you. My question is, last year the Storm and the Sky were the only teams to beat the Sun in a series, whether it's the regular season or the postseason. I know their rosters are changing as well throughout free agency. But how does the roster you have constructed with Courtney and JJ and some of the other people you bring on for training camp, how does that kind of affect the trickier matchups that you guys had last year?
Yeah, it's hard to know how the dust is going to settle all around the league. I'll be better able to answer that when the dust settles. But we had to look at ourselves. We had to see what that looked like, and bringing back the MVP was first and foremost. We told JJ, like, you're the priority, you're the face. We've got to get you back, and having JJ's commitment to come back and chase a championship in a franchise. There's something special about being the first championship. Like, she'll be immortalized if she leads us to that first championship. So, this whole offseason is not worried about necessarily what everybody else is doing. When the dust settles, we'll figure out, the matchups that are going to happen with all those other franchises. But how can we get better this offseason? And we're still plugging away to do that. We got the two big pieces that we wanted, but we're still plugging away with other decisions to try to improve heading into the season.
And last year, the league celebrated a big anniversary. This year, the Sun will be celebrating a big, 20th franchise anniversary. Do big anniversaries like this add any extra energy or excitement or motivation? How does that kind of affect the locker room?
Yeah, for sure. It should be fun with the special events that come with a 20th season, an anniversary season. Looking forward to all that entails behind the scenes that will roll out in what is an anniversary and special season for us. So it will bring more juice, to bring more energy, even more than what we're already going to bring chasing what we want.
Wensley, followed by Gabe, and then Tarika will be the last question.
Hey, Coach, giving all that you just mentioned about, having to bring Jonquel back to make another run, bringing in Courtney Williams. And again, when the announcement for Jonquel was announced, it said unfinished business, right? So, we're all intrigued, and do you feel like there's pressure on the team next year, with the moves that you've made, having the number 1 seed last year and coming up just short against the eventual champions? Is there any pressure to, close the deal out this time and, have the Sun win the championship?
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be any more external pressure than we put on ourselves to be good. I'm fortunate that I get to go to work every day with peers, the players that are willing to hold each other accountable and demand excellence and, demand their best. I have a locker room full of, tremendous professionals, and I'm a manager. as I've said, like my coaching at 24 years or my 13 head years in the collegiate level, I was, crazy more coaching. It's more managing at this level because I have such outstanding, player leaders and, player accountability inwardly to themselves, but also there's peer accountability. So again, there's going to be no more external pressure than we already put on ourselves.
Thank you, Coach.
Gabe?
Hey, Coach. Gabe Ibrahim from Her Hoop Stats. I'm not sure if you can answer this question, but I was wondering if you think the WNBA prioritization rules have had any effect on this year's free agency.
Gabe, it's a good question. Obviously we were one of the franchises that at one point had all 11 of our players off the 2021 roster overseas, all 11. It didn't impact us tremendously, but we have numerous players on the best teams in multiple countries overseas, and fortunately have some veterans that are making significant money overseas. So it will be interesting ultimately how it all plays out in the long run. But this year, Gabe, it hasn't been a huge factor in the negotiations that I've been having, but we were also blessed with the majority of our team under contract.
Okay, thanks, Coach. And then my last one's just a fun one. You're mentioning how Dejanay is a really great X's and O's players. I was wondering, who the best player you've coached in terms of X's and O's is.
Well, I can go down my roster, but Alyssa Thomas is elite X's and O's mind. Sometimes too good because we both see the game, and at times she's so smart, like she's seen things before, some of us, but it's a blessing that Alyssa's so strong. But person that doesn't get talked about enough is Brianna Jones, is an elite basketball mind, an elite X's and O's person. And because of that, has been a big part of her growth and her development, and why she's become an all-star and become a real factor in this league is not just her dedication to her game on the court, but it's her mind, it's her X's and O's minds really allows her to be ahead of plays and be successful. But you can go down the line, our veterans and JJ, who we're talking a lot about, is not just one of the best players in the world, but she's a really smart basketball player also.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
Tarika?
Hey, Coach, how's it going? Just a couple of questions to close us out here. Last year, at the end of the season, there was a lot of talk and a lot of questions circulating around the combination of inserting Alyssa Thomas into the lineup late in the season. How important is it, or how much focus are you putting into this year with finally having Alyssa and DB and JJ and being able to build and maintain that chemistry with them from the start of the season without, the pandemic or injuries? Like, how important is building that chemistry from the beginning of the season going to be?
Yeah, I can't wait, right? We had this vision going into the 2020 season. JJ opts out, then Alyssa gets hurt in the off season between 2021. They've played 2 games together in the regular season. Our big vision, like a lot of like professional, even men's team, like the big 3. And when we brought DB, AT, and JJ together to think about that, they've only played 2 regular season games altogether. And we haven't even practiced. And that was one of the challenges in the playoffs, was that we could play slightly different with AT than we could before we had AT, but we had very little practice time, heading into that semifinal series with that whole group, and didn't have a lot of game experience with that group. So knock on wood, if we can get into training camp, we can get into the season with practice time with this core group together. I can't wait to see, how it all meshes and plays together. But I look forward to it. It's been a long process. Knock on wood, we can stay healthy leading into these last few months, going into training camp to see how it will all fit together and play together.
My last question for you, Coach, is I'm so happy that you mentioned Breezy because she's such an amazing player and you could certainly see her progression last year. What are your expectations for her now that, you know, you've expressed how she is such an X's and O's person? Defensively, she was so solid inside. What do you expect out of her, you know, moving upon her MIP season?
Yeah, I believe that, she won't drop. She is an all-star in this league, plays with tremendous confidence each and every night over in EuroLeague. She's playing against the best and continuing to be so productive. And so the efficiency that Bree Jones plays with at both ends of the court is so important for us. It's going to be outstanding. If we decide to go that route with her off the bench, then, the goal is for her to be the sixth man of the year award winner, and she's certainly capable. I mean, she is truly an all-star and an elite post player. And, we have three outstanding post players that will work in combination with each other. And I'm excited about it. But, Bree Jones isn't going anywhere. She's not going to take a step back. She is an all-star in our lineup, and can't wait to see her continued growth. She just keeps getting better.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. If there's no other questions for Curt, that will conclude today's media availability. Thank you all for joining, and please reach out with any questions. Thank you.